is wild how much can happen. This is dumb to say. How much can happen in 43 years?
Sure.
Thinking
Oh,
about
yeah.
victory.
No, of course. Yeah.
But also, like, in your personal life, how much can happen within 3 years, but how much doesn't happen within 1 year?
That's interesting. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is like looking back, you know, this is 2024.
Yeah.
You guys are listening to this however, whenever you're listening to
Fall
this.
of 24, probably.
We started this podcast
2020?
2020.
Yeah. We do
'Cause it
two
was-
seasons a year, so this will be the second of the fourth year.
Yeah, so I would
2020.
say so much has happened in 4 years.
What's the thing that comes to mind the most?
Well, I mean, like, you getting married.
I got married.
You got
Yeah,
married.
yeah.
I got unmarried. And
That's true.
that's
yeah.
not funny, but
no,
I mean, it is what it
very
is.
the way you say it.
Like,
It's funny when you say it.
You know, and then this podcast,
Yeah.
as far as like just thinking through the chronological things that have happened from buildings being built, of people coming and going of
Very
the
much so.
church.
Yeah.
And then the productions of all of the scripts that we have written.
Yeah.
And lots of heartbreak, lots of tears, but then
Totally.
lots of fun things.
Triumph.
Yeah, I was talking with Pastor Paul yesterday, and I said, can you believe revival on the roof? Mm-hmm. Guys, those of you who are just coming into this podcast, Pastor Paul did this thing called Revival on the Roof during the coronavirus.
That's right. Right out
And
here.
right, and we did church on the roof.
Yeah. Filled this parking lot behind here.
We actually
Yeah.
filmed a full Easter production on our stage with people
Yeah.
who did what was that called? 6 degrees of separation? What is that? What was the thing that they were telling us to have?
Oh, what was it? Social distancing.
Social
Dude, I
distancing.
haven't heard that phrase in a while.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, same.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the two words during that time of 2020, you
Yeah.
guys remember, was social distancing and pivot.
Yeah.
The ministries were like, we're gonna pivot.
It's time to pivot.
It's
yeah.
time to pivot.
Every sermon series.
Every sermon series
Yeah,
was
basketball.
You know what? We feel like God is pivoting, and I was like, okay. Yeah, I just imagined God
Everybody
with a
had
basketball.
a basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm just saying all this stuff because I love catching you guys up, even
Yeah.
if you already know all these things, because
Yeah.
I want you to think about in your personal life how much has happened within the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my goodness, we are still alive. Mm-hmm. The things that I prayed for didn't happen, and then things that I was believing for happened.
Yeah. Interesting. What's some examples?
Like, if I'm going to be honest, I've always had this deep prayer that I'm like, over some dreams that I've wanted to see happen.
For sure.
Okay, and personally on believing for things for my kids and all those things, and I've been praying, and then I just wrote down during the whole time whenever I was going through the divorce, and I was in a in between apartment, and then I went into a home to where I was like, okay, this is not the long term, but this is good for right now.
Yeah.
And in that home, it was lots of night walks with my dog to where I was like emotional, being like, God, what is my life?
Yeah.
And what am I doing?
Right.
And do I still need to be working at Victory? And all of those questions and all of the, but then I was like, I wrote down, and I was believing for a house, for a home where I would be like by the woods.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really want my kids, because I felt the closest to God whenever I was in nature.
Totally. Yeah.
Away from distractions.
Yeah.
And then, it was like this year, and it seems like forever, because I was looking at Zillow. How many of you guys just scroll through Zillow?
Constantly.
No one? Okay.
All the time. All
Just
the time.
me?
I do it all the time.
Yeah. Well, and then I looked through it for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Just believing, and I was like, none of this stuff I can't afford.
Sure.
And then it was like overnight something happened, and I'm in a house that has woods.
Beautiful.
And I'm now in a place, and I've now been in that house for like 6 weeks.
Incredible.
No, that's a lie. For like 4 weeks.
Sure,
The
okay.
first 2 weeks, I didn't have power. I didn't have water. I
Yeah,
didn't have all
that's
these
how
things.
far in the woods you are.
Yeah, no, I live in
Yeah.
a tree. Raccoons are my neighbors. But it was something that I was believing for, and I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh my
awesome.
goodness.
That's awesome.
And what it taught me was,
Yeah.
John, everything, like, and there was things where I would cry and pray,
Sure.
and they still haven't happened.
Sure. Oh yeah.
And then something that I wrote down, and I even wrote something that I wrote down and I said it once. I was just like, God, this is where I'm seeing it. This is what I am. And then all of a sudden, the way it happened with my home, it was like, this was a God thing.
Totally. Totally. Yeah.
Anyways, and
Congrats.
well,
by the way.
thank you.
a
Yeah,
big deal.
and you helped me.
Oh sure.
Dude, the day of the moving, guys, listen to this. The day of the moving, I had to sell my house and buy my house on the same day. And so I was like, Arvin, you are going to be at my house that I am selling.
Yeah.
And you're going to make sure that and in the first few days he helped me like pack up.
Yeah, sure.
And then on the day of, I was like, you're going to be with the movers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to my house that I'm trying to buy. But everything was contingent.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
go to the house that I'm trying to buy, and I'm going to
Yeah.
have Dom there,
Yeah.
our friend Dom DeMeo.
Absolutely.
He helps us write the music for
Yeah.
Victory Productions.
Worship
He's,
leader.
worship leader at Victory.
Creative genius.
Yeah, creative genius. And so I was like, Dom, you're going to be at this house, and I'm going to run back and forth between title agencies, and I'm talking like everything from the people who were buying my house at last minute were like, we have to move this trampoline. We have to move this play set. We
weird
have to
demands.
move this these outdoor furniture. And I hadn't paid for that to be moved because they initially said they
Yeah,
wanted it.
they wanted it,
And they're
yeah.
like, we're only going to buy it if these things are gone.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, what? And so, spending this money that I didn't have to like try to get things out.
Yeah.
And then when they were like, hey, here, we're going to buy your house. And I was like, great. And I ran the check to my title
Yeah.
to buy my house.
Yeah.
And the check bounced. Guys, the check bounced.
Yeah.
My stuff is already moved into this new house.
Yeah.
And then the realtor on the other side who was like, hey, are you going to buy this house? It seems like you don't have money to buy it. And I was like, hold on. Wait, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going back and forth. The people are like, oh, we're from this bank in Virginia.
Yeah.
And because it's in our head, it closes. And I had to, guys, I Googled the branch manager of this bank in Virginia, found them on Facebook.
Incredible.
I Facebook messaged them.
Incredible.
And I was like, hey, my name is John. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have a really great podcast called Behind the Scenes of Our Best Days.
They go, no, we know.
Yeah. They're like, no, it's totally good.
Regular listeners.
They said, this is, and then I said, there are people who have your bank as their whatever. Their check bounced. I need you to get me this money in order to buy my home.
Yeah.
And this person was like, well, I left the bank. It closes at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really need
Yeah.
it. This person went back and got
Turned their
got everything figured out.
Incredible.
I'm
Incredible.
like, thank you, Facebook. Thank you,
Incredible.
social network.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And
Mark
anyways,
Zuckerberg.
it all worked out, and
Yeah.
but everything was kind of insane, but then everything got worked out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness, God, it's just unique how God works.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And during all of this,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm going to bring this back home, guys.
No, you're good.
But during all of this, I'm talking with Arvin. We're getting ready to go into one of the coolest production things that we've ever done
Yeah.
here at Victory
Yeah.
for Christmas and Easter, 2024 and 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having this full circle moment, thinking about with Arvin. I'm like, man, when we started, we were in this office and you were in this season of your life and I was in this season of my life. And then so much has happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the whole time, no joke, and this is the title of this podcast, there was no official training.
No official training. NOT.
NOT. Has anyone ever been in a situation to where you go, I have no official training? Raise your hand.
All the time.
Okay.
Constantly.
Okay.
Everything.
So, and I was like, we arrived season 8 of this podcast with no official training.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. No, even for recording this. has
Yes.
been- yeah. the
Yeah,
whole
because it
process.
started off like it was kind of botchy, and then we got Caleb Toronzo, which was an incredible producer.
Big help.
Who helped us,
Yeah.
and he helped us make it great.
Yes.
Then he decided to become a freelance artist, which he is crushing. He's doing good.
Yeah.
Him and his wife have a baby.
Yeah.
And so whenever they got married and they were having kids, he's like, hey, I need to do this. We still see him every weekend at church, and it's great. But then we were like, okay, we don't have anyone to record it.
Yeah.
And then we had Cody Applegate
That's
help.
right. Who is doing 800 things.
800 things. Yeah, and he's another creative, brilliant
genius.
dude.
Yeah, sweet man.
But he also is like, he can only do so much. So
That's
now
true.
it came to us.
We
being
figured
like,
out how to finagle these mics and this camera. It used to be such a bigger endeavor. It was like lights and cameras and.
But now,
all this
honestly,
stuff.
anyone can have a podcast.
Thank
it
God.
makes me sad.
Well, sure, but ours has listeners. We have plenty of
I know,
people who
and we're thankful for
regularly,
that.
Yeah,
But
and sponsors.
Yeah, good sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, here at Victory, in all of our services, we say this confession. And within this confession, we truly believe it. It's not just like we believe you can't live a positive life with a negative mouth. And we say the words, our best days are right in front of us.
Yeah.
I have victory in my heart. Our best days are right in front of us.
Yeah.
Jesus lives in me. He's not finished with me yet. We say these words.
Yeah.
And so this whole podcast is about behind the scenes of our best days.
Yeah.
Because everyone has a behind the scenes. We talk about everything from like the church side to hiring to staffing to working at a church.
Yeah.
And then also personal lives, but just what it's like and how incredible God, honestly how faithful he is.
Absolutely.
Even in the midst of things you're like, I don't know how this is going to work out.
Right. Absolutely.
Or how are we on season 8?
Yeah.
Anyways, I know I keep saying that. I'm going to stop saying that because I don't want to bore you guys. But no official training.
Yeah.
If you work at a church, there are things that you have done, I know, that you've had no official training.
Yeah.
And you were like, I have no idea, but now I'm doing videos for my lead pastor, and I never learned how to do a video. I started making them on my phone with InShot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And now I'm having to use Premiere, and
Yeah, exactly.
And I think about I think about the early days whenever I took over our creative department.
Yeah.
It was 3 different branches. It was the graphics department. It was TV. We had a TV ministry.
Yeah, that was the whole thing.
And we filmed intros and outros with Pastor Billy Joe and Sharon.
Yeah.
And they'd go, this is victory in Jesus.
I remember, yeah.
And there was like canned laughter, like ha ha, ha, and like canned clapping.
Yeah.
And we would have to produce a show,
Yeah.
and then in the middle put my dad's sermon and choose a sermon, and then film all these intros and outros and write scripts for the intros and outros.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it had to be 30 minutes, and then we would sell those shows to TV.
Yeah. I remember watching them growing up.
Yeah, and then
absolutely.
your dad did it for TBN.
CBN.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah, your dad
he
did
on
it for
CBN.
Christian Broadcasting Network.
Yeah.
And so
Still
you're
does,
aware.
I think, yeah.
And so we had a TV ministry.
Yeah.
We had graphics in one area, and then we had which was our service production, which was Ryan Stafford, and he would do PCO, Planning Center Online. And it was all these separate. Well, then we brought them all together, and it was honestly just a poop storm. And it was like you have these people. Everyone has opinions. There's too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And my brother, who got put into pastoral leadership, was like, and my brother's in charge.
Yeah.
And everyone hated me because they were like, this guy has no official training.
No official training. Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. I was a youth pastor.
Sure.
But my brother asked me to be over this, and I don't want to be a Nepo baby, a Nepo brother.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
But I'm also like, here's the thing. I don't know how to do graphics or photography or all of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I just know that we need to get from point A to point B, and so I'm going to help us organize.
Yeah. And
keep you guys accountable of showing up on time and you know, actually like doing 40 hours of work because you're getting paid for 40 hours
Yeah.
and not staying clocked in and taking a 3-hour lunch break.
Oof.
Just all of those things.
Someone just got convicted.
Someone just got convicted listening.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that you hated. And so I came in and I was like, hey, we're so far behind on these projects. So I became a glorified project manager. And then I was like, why are we not doing social media? And then they're like, oh, well, and these people went to school for design. These people took photography classes.
Sure, yeah.
Isn't that crazy you would pay for photography
That
classes
was a whole
at one point?
major at one point, yeah.
Instagram changed the game because then everyone became an influencer and everyone learned how to take pictures without taking a photography class.
Right, yeah.
They learned through YouTube.
Right, it wasn't that hard.
So, and then so basically I YouTubed my way through it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to run the social media.
Yeah.
And then we ran it, and then I was like, okay, we need to create volunteers. And everyone in my office was like, you don't want to give a volunteer a camera. The things are going to be bad. You know, the pictures are going to be bad. They won't know how to edit on Lightroom. And I was like, hey, well, let's just figure it out. And I went and I found some photographers in Tulsa.
Yeah.
I looked up, this was back when people would hashtag on Instagram. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
They would hashtag Tulsa. I clicked on it and I just started messaging photographers and I go, hey, would you guys like to do a photo shoot this Sunday? And there's concert type lighting.
Yes.
And you can take portraits of people
Yeah.
and not have to ask their permission.
Right.
That's how I worded it.
Right.
And there was 8 or 9 photographers that showed up and 3 or 4 of them were like, wait, is this a church? And I was like, yeah, but hold on. And then they're like, and I just said, I go, you want to get better at photography because you want to increase your, back then everyone was about followers on Instagram. And I was like, hey, you want to grow followers on Instagram. What if you just practice your photography here at a church? And I said, there's concert type lighting inside. And then you'll have to adjust your settings and then shoot in the lobby because there is, you know, fluorescent light. And then you'll have to adjust your settings and shoot outside. And no one's going to ask you why you're taking pictures.
Right.
So these random photographers that didn't attend church were like, okay.
Yeah.
2 of them got saved.
Yeah.
And continued to serve for like 2 years.
Incredible.
And then they became members.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyways, but all of that happened with no official training.
Right.
And I'm just like, so many times, the whole point of this is that so many times we, as in humans, we stand back from doing something because we have no official training.
Absolutely.
But in reality, when it's like, I'm not saying God chose me, but I'm saying if God chooses you to do something, if God speaks to you to do something. I had no official training in script writing. I've had no official training in music writing. If you have a passion and you're just like, come hell or high water, I'm going to make this happen. And then I am committed to getting better, and I'm also committed to not getting my feelings hurt when it sucks.
Right. Absolutely.
Then I think that you can do a lot of things without no official training.
100%. It reminds me of when it was August of 2014. I was in college. I was majoring in communications, which is like majoring in like drinking water. It's like how every day you go to class and they go, now lift the cup and you open your mouth. Now hold on. You got to hold your breath. It was like that simple. I loved my teachers, but it was communications.
Right.
So, August of 2014, I'm in prayer because I pray, and I'm praying about the year, my senior year of college, and it just strikes me this idea like I loved writing. I was journaling a lot. I was writing like manuscripts, kinds of things, like whatever. And then I thought, man, it'd be so cool to write a script someday. So I tried to sign up for the screenwriting class, and they go, you have no prerequisites. You're not in this major at all, so we're not going to let you into this class.
And these are the writing people.
Yeah. They're the ones who teach you like the right format and everything. So because I grew up loving movies, I download the script to The Godfather from a website on the internet. I borrow my friend's iPad. I'm looking at the script for The Godfather, and then on my own laptop, I put up the movie The Godfather. And I spent like a month going scene by scene, reading the script, and then looking at the film, and then being like, how did they get from this to that? And I didn't realize there was software for it. Like you can nowadays use Final Draft or whatever
Yeah.
to put everything into a script format. I was literally just hitting like the space bar 100 times
Word
to
document.
get on Word documents to just write. So all my earliest scripts that I wrote in college, I just started doing skits and videos, and even like my first official professional scripts, I was just on Word, like Microsoft Word, hitting the space bar. Like,
And then you were like double enter.
yeah, to get down to be a character and all that stuff. But what it did is it forced me to learn every piece of information on a script means something on screen. And if it doesn't, then that's poor screenwriting. So I learned how to write scripts that way. I remember also there was a period where it was like I'm just kind of doing random odd jobs to survive and pay my bills. And this friend of mine in Oklahoma City goes, "Hey, I want to do a music video." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it." And he's like, "I can only afford to pay you. I can't hire someone to film it and edit it. Like, you're gonna have to do everything." And so I borrow my friend's camera.
And you've never done a music video before.
I've never turned on a camera in my life. I don't know how to do
And you
any
got
of it.
asked to do a music video.
Yeah, because he was just like, I had directed one for another friend. We all know Brian Nira, and he was doing stuff on The Voice. I directed one for him. This other guy goes, "Hey, I'm a worship leader in Norman, Oklahoma. Can meet me in Oklahoma City. Let's do this, whatever." And so I come up with the concept, and then he goes, "I can only pay for you. You have to your travel
Everything.
here, the food for the set itself, everything. We're gonna have to just, you know." And there was a 4-day period where I just did not sleep, and I drive down there I took my like lamps like this from my parents' house.
Yeah.
And I put them in my trunk with normal light bulbs, and I borrow a friend's camera, and I borrow an SD card, and I Google what SD card is. Like the night before we're filming, I'm Googling like how to use DSLR camera.
I love that.
And then we did the music video, and it worked out fine. I mean, to this day, it's probably not the top quality, but I'm very proud of it because what you cannot prove
Yes.
by being a trained professional is whether or not you have taste. Trained professionals can tell you the name of everything, like that's a C stand, and that's a this, and that's a whatever, and that's a lav mic, and that, but it's like, I can tell you what it's supposed to feel like. I can tell you what it's supposed to look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, no official training there, and then we come and do this.
So, I mean, I know that you wouldn't say this, but like, kind of like a Rick Rubin.
Uh-huh.
So for those
interesting.
of you guys who, this is a shameless plug. Rick Rubin is a guy. You have listened to all of this music that he has impacted,
Absolutely.
and you just did not know about this individual.
Yeah.
Tell them who Rick Rubin is, tell them about his book, and tell him who he started.
Absolutely. So he's technically a music producer, but he himself will say he doesn't play instruments, he doesn't run the soundboard. He has this complex in Malibu, California, and musicians come to him. He started Def Jam, the music label in New York.
Def Jam, like hip hop records. He started it.
At the advent of hip hop.
This is a white guy with a ZZ Top beard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just in his dorm room at NYU, starts doing all this music stuff. Anyways, decades go by. There is not a person who enjoys music whose life has not been impacted positively by Rick Rubin.
Some of the people that he produced.
Oh gosh, like a lot of stuff with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jay-Z. I mean, I can pull up the list.
Ghetto Boys, Ramones.
It's like dozens
Johnny
and dozens.
Cash.
Johnny Cash, yeah. When his career had almost ended in the late 90s, him and Rick Rubin team up. That profound music video when he covers Hurt by 9 Inch Nails, that was a Rick Rubin idea. Kanye West.
The
Yeezus
Eminem.
album. Yeah, so many people. The Avid Brothers, if you like them.
Justin Bieber. All of these people he has produced. This man does not play an instrument.
Yeah.
And he doesn't run the soundboard in a producing studio.
But he can tell you what it needs to feel like.
But he can tell you what it needs to feel like.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that is a word for someone listening right now.
100%, yeah.
That when you have the it factor, when you just go, you know what? I don't know how to do this, but I know what it's supposed to look like. I know what it's supposed to sound like. I know what it's supposed to taste like. And you would let that, lazy people would call it obsession, but you let that instinct drench you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you are placed in certain situations. You will be the only person in that project creatively that will be able to do what you do
Yeah.
because you have the it factor. Anyways, Arvin was not saying this, but I was saying how he was put into this music video
Oh, sure.
situation. He was like, I just figured it out. I
Yeah.
brought in lamps. I started da 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 da
Yeah,
da.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's the Rick Rubin effect.
Sure.
Anyways, okay, that was a
Gobbler.
small rabbit trail, but back to Arvin.
Yeah, no, it's just the whole idea that if you have an appetite to do something, you'll figure it out. And
If you have an appetite to do something,
you'll figure it out. Even
why,
if it sucks.
let me ask you this. Why do you feel like people are walking around and they're like, I don't know my purpose. I don't know my...
Oh, really?
Well, I just
Yeah.
feel like, to me, it doesn't make sense not to have an appetite.
Yeah.
Like there's this shirt that I bought a year ago. I just thought it was so cool. Now this is like I would never wear this in public because it's corny. But to me, I thought the message was strong because it's a gym shirt.
Yeah.
So it's like what people would work out in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it says hungry, and then a cross out, and then it says starving.
Interesting. Yeah.
Like, you know how people just say your hunger for knowledge.
Yeah.
The message of the shirt was, I'm not hungry, I'm starving. And my starving is going to drive me to get better, to become more sharp, to become fully engrossed in this project or process. To me, that's the ultimate worship to God.
Sure. Yeah.
I truthfully believe whenever, if you are a believer, if you go, you know what, I live according to the Word of God. And Victory, Pastor Paul, Pastor Ashley, they live according to the Word of God. That is truly like what they preach. That's what we stand on. The Bible is everything.
Yeah.
People go, where do you guys stand politics? Where do you guys stand in blah, blah, blah? We go, if it's in the Bible, that is who we are. That's what we believe.
Yeah.
All that to say, if that is what you base your life on, I believe that your greatest worship to God is being, John Eldridge says, the glory of God is man fully alive. You being fully engrossed into what you are doing in this season of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't mean that there's not going to be mundane moments, but your appetite should be driving your growth. Your appetite for the presence of God, yes, but your appetite also for what you've been put on earth to do.
Yes, definitely.
It is like, with no official, I say no official training. I had a major in sports medicine, but so did a lot of people. And with sports medicine, you can go different routes. You can become an orthopedic surgeon with more schooling. You could become a nurse. You can do certain things.
Yeah.
You can be a PE teacher or a football coach. I did that. I walked away from it from a long time. And then a few years ago, I felt like God was stirring me to get back involved in the school. I got back involved with strength training.
Yeah.
And in my free time, I find myself trying to be fully engrossed in learning how to program strength training for these young athletes, because I know these kids that I am training. I know their names. I know when they have a single parent that is working 2 jobs just to put their kid in VCS.
Yeah.
And the kid, whenever he hits a certain PR in the weight room, about how it makes him come fully alive and how that is going to make him a better son, which will someday make him a better boyfriend, which will someday make him a better father, which will someday make him a better husband.
Right.
I'm like, oh my goodness. And my appetite for the vision that I see is just, it is overwhelming to where sometimes I can be worn out.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think that's God's design, honestly.
I feel like, and I truthfully feel so close to God whenever we are, whenever me and you, Arvin, or me and Dom, whenever we're creating, like if we're writing music or if we're writing a story and the Bible is jumping off the page and we're like, oh my goodness, this character in this moment needs to be doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I get goosebumps, but I also feel, I feel the presence of God.
Absolutely.
Anyways.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's an interesting, I've been thinking about this lately. Like the moment that your appetite to create or operate at a high level is peaking and it's at its highest point, that is lately for me, simultaneously it's happening when my capacity to do it in my own strength is dipping at its lowest point. And so this tension of, I want this life so badly. I want this to be my creative output, and I want this to be how I operate in my life. My yearning, my eagerness for that is so obsessive, like you said. I'm so drenched in that passion up here. It's like very, very high. I want it. It's constantly on my mind. And then my capacity to tolerate my own sense of performing and trying to go about getting it has never been lower.
Interesting.
And so the space between these two, if I'm honest, in my experience, it will break a person.
Yeah.
And I am convinced.
That's where people become overwhelmed and anxiety.
Yeah,
depressed.
and to use a term from equestrians, like when they break a horse, it's like a wild horse that becomes, now you can ride this horse, it's tamed, it's brokenness. So it's not shattered and depleted, it's like, this horse is broken now, you can ride it. Like the owner can get on it. And so I have experienced lately the peak of desire to where it's like, it's weird. I don't know where the line is between anger and frustration and deep happiness and joy. Like it's all one big fluid in my mind. My yearning for what I'm called to, and then my capacity to make it happen has never been lower. And that's probably, it's always been that low. I've always been that helpless, but I'm aware of it now. I'm very, very humbled by how much I'm like, oh, you can't do anything. Like, I have different phrases that I use to communicate that I don't know anything at all. And even what I do know was circumstantial in that moment. Yeah. It worked in that moment. When people say like, oh, that podcast was good, or that whatever talk that we gave, I'm like, in that moment, God was helping. So this distance between these two poles will break a person. And I think that's what makes God trust a person.
That's what makes God trust a person, is when he knows that you're broken.
He breaks you, then he hands it to you. I don't think there's anyone I respect who's operating at a high scale in any category. I'm talking certain people that I know that are dads, and they're operating it with excellence in being a father, excellence in raising kids, excellence in being present with their kids. It's that. It's also business people. It's also folks who do creative work, teachers, whoever it is. That God breaks you with the distance between your capacity and his high call, and then he hands it to you. And so there will be people who say, well, you're not trained for that, whatever the thing is that God hands. So there have been people that have been...
Yeah, people say, you have no official training.
That's right. And so you can't be this way. You can't do that. You can't do that. Like, there were people who were critical when at 29, Pastor Paul steps in to be the senior. Yeah, absolutely. He's too young, whatever. And then in my 6-7 years on staff and my 20 years being at Victory, the more I learn, and the more people I observe, and the more dynamics I watch publicly and privately, the more I go, whoever had that to say, I've never seen someone more successful say that. It's always people
who are less than.
And they're and in the sense that, like, they will not take the risk, and they use their lack of training as a protective layer of like, well, no, because you should do it like this, you should do it like that. We've always talked about the funny way to talk about it, because it is such a sensitive topic, not just about our leadership, but in general, leadership and authority in the world. The overweight guy eating nachos talking about what LeBron should do differently on the court. It's always that.
Yeah, it's the guy sitting in the stands, watching LeBron, licking his fingers, getting the queso off his fingers, and being like, you know what LeBron should do.
Exactly. He's got a jalapeno hanging out in his mouth.
Jalapeno, stuck in the middle of his teeth, and he's like, I think LeBron, when he gets into the paint, like, he just waits there.
They have all that opinion, and I say that because I have both of those things in me. There is that thing that says that same thing to me. But to simplify the point here, what I'm saying is, when God puts his hand on somebody for a specific work, I don't want to have anything to say about it. And no matter how things go well or poorly, if you apply the same standard with people in Scripture, I can make a case for why David shouldn't have been king.
Absolutely.
I could make a case for why Jesus shouldn't have become who you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you could make a case of why Moses shouldn't have been Moses.
Yeah, and the whole unfortunate point is that Jesus is up there making a case about why I should be allowed into heaven, why I should be gifted with
Jesus is making the case
He's
for us.
our advocate. Yeah, so it's like
Wow,
you're
that's
so
beautiful.
busy pointing out why other people shouldn't be gifted and blessed. This guy shouldn't be able to preach. This person shouldn't be allowed to do that job. When Pharrell became the new guy for Louis Vuitton, whatever. There's examples in the secular world and in the Christian space. You can waste your time doing that, and even if you're right, the more important fact is if you will shut up and listen, you might overhear Jesus advocating for you and everything you're gifted to do. And when that's happening, when you're in tune with that, that's where confidence comes from, I think. Because then you're like, when people say to me, like, I've had actually people say, like, I want to write the scripts for Victories Productions. I think I should do it instead of you. And I can, with all sincerity, go, you're probably right. You're probably right. I can't tell you why this happened the way it did. What I know is this is my assignment right now, and I'm going to be faithful to it. And that's all I have. So it brings an innate sense of humility and confidence to go, as long as God is still advocating for me, as Jesus is still advocating for me, sending his Holy Spirit to empower me, everything else is just really, it's the portions of history we'll never hear because they didn't matter. You know what I mean? It's the names that aren't in Scripture.
The portions of history that don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. They were details that contributed to the point.
Yeah.
I want to be focused on the point.
Right.
The heart of the matter.
I think that's such a beautiful thing that you just said.
Yeah.
Focusing on the heart of the matter, and the thing that you said, that what actually gives you confidence is shutting up and listening to the Holy Spirit and being like, oh my goodness, Jesus is advocating for me.
Right.
That I belong in heaven.
Exactly.
That I am worthy of this thing that he's put in my lap.
That's right.
Yes, there's no official training, but
Yeah.
like Pastor Paul and many preachers have
Sure.
said, God does not call the qualified. He
Qualifies the called, yeah.
He qualifies the called.
Right, exactly.
So if you're listening today and you have been in a moment where you go, I don't know, I don't have any official training, but I know I'm supposed to do this. Just yesterday I was on a heart-to-heart phone call with a woman who really feels like she should be running in, to be getting involved in high-level politics.
Cool.
You know, in 2026.
Nice.
And she was like, I don't want this, I don't know. And I just said, listen, if this is from the Holy Spirit, if this is God, he will actually put you there.
Sure.
But now that he has told you this and you can't sleep and this is, allow that appetite to really push you to educate yourself.
100%, yeah.
Not to climb the ladder.
No, sure.
Not to strive.
Right.
But to know everything about it.
Yeah.
And then build the structure within your heart. So when that time comes, if it's the Lord's will, you are strong enough to hold it.
Yeah.
To allow God to break you, like you said, to break the horse, and then he'll hand it to you.
That's right, yeah.
Awesome. Hey, wow, guys, episode 1 was so good.
Pretty good.
It was.
We should,
Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you guys.
Hey, we love you. We will see you next week.